Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back on Isabelle's talk show. Today I've got the great pleasure to invite Luc Cardinal. And before we start with the interesting topic we're going to talk about today, I want to introduce Luc Cardinal. So, Luc, welcome first. Welcome on Isabelle's talk show.
Thank you very much, Isabelle. Nice to be here.
You're welcome. So, Luc was born in Canada, but now he lives in Puerto Vallarta region in Mexico. He loves hiking, cooking, DIY, gardening, and sharing with friends. He's a neuro coach and a speaker with over 30 years of experience. He's a passionate truth explorer and a dynamic speaker who engages audiences on bridging the gap between perception and reality, reaching higher performance and freeing the most authentic version of themselves. He helps progressive leaders cut through the bullshit about who they think they are or should be, so they can safely deal with their deeper issues, be their most authentic selves, and live the highest truth in their personal and professional lives. So thank you very much, Luc, for being here. And today you're going to talk about neuroscience applied to leadership and communication.
Indeed, it's a subject that I love to get into because the news is so exciting. There is so much knowledge coming out now that it's almost like when you apply neurosciences to leadership, giving leaders a brand new toolkit to become the leader that they truly are. So if we go back in history a little bit, and we look at leadership. So what is leadership? For most people, they see somebody that, say, Richard Branson, Elon Musk, for the ones who love them. And if you don't love them, think of the ones you love. Those leaders that attract you, they attract you because some will say they have charisma, some will say they seem to know where they're going. But the one thing that's common in all of them is that they make you feel something. And you want to be like them, but as you don't want to be like them, but you want to be your version of how alive that they seem to be. And because there's a real difference between leadership and management, it's not the same thing at all. And we're all leaders, whether we have people in our organization or not, we're all leaders. So why is it so exciting? Because the history of leadership was really based, and that's what I was saying, on copying, on looking to apply the techniques, on taking classes on what is a good leader. What's emerging today through neurosciences and that brand new toolkit that I'm talking about. I think the first thing would be to talk about that we have 3 brains. So we all know that we have a brain in our head. Well, hopefully we do. But not as many people know that we also have a brain in the heart and a brain in the gut. The one in the gut could be linked to instinct, temperament. So the rhythm at which you go about life, your rhythm for creating things, your rhythm for leading a project will be different than everybody else because you don't have the same temperament. So, and that's again linked to the first brain, the one in the gut, instinct. And we don't really pay attention to that instinct, do we? The second one, the one in the heart, being intuition. We have very little idea about how do you use intuition in business. So I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And of course, the one here, which could be associated to cognition. So what we know in neurosciences now is that there's basically 2 states in which a leader can find himself or herself. One could be like a chaotic kind of a state, which is you have some objectives, you've got some news, it's not as good as you thought it would be. You want to get out of your office, go and motivate your staff. So you put on your brave face, yeah, things are going well, and you want to go and motivate people and all of that stuff. Well, little do people know that when they get into that mode, they give one message here and through their words, but their heart is sending a whole other different message. So why am I saying that? Because the heart we know now, has an electromagnetic field going out about 3 meters or 21 feet or something like that, and is being perceived by all mammals. All mammals will perceive the electromagnetic field of your heart. Now, what is an electromagnetic field? An example that's easy to understand for people is a cell phone. A cell phone, through an electromagnetic field, will connect to a cell tower. Once the connection is established, then the phone calls or voice or data or video will travel on that field to reach the tower and eventually to reach you through other towers and everything. So what is being carried on that field is data, voice, image, right? So when you hear that, then you start thinking, okay, so if my heart is a little bit like that, what travels on that field? And that is your state. I think that maybe he didn't know that then, but William Thoreau, an American writer, said many years ago, "Who you are speaks so loudly that I can't hear what you're saying." That's what we're talking about. Like he didn't know then, now we know. So what are we saying? You go out and that field is saying, I got bad news. I hope you guys won't really hear it because I'm here to motivate you and all of that stuff. So let's say you're in an office and you go by and you motivate people. And then once you're gone, they look at one another and they go, what was that?
Yeah.
The worst of it is they can't figure it out because
there is a discrepancy between your heart and what you actually convey. I mean, the message you convey.
Right on. And that's actually called heart chaos. The other thing we could talk about very briefly, maybe that will prompt for some other time that will be on a show again. It is known now that we are the creators of our reality, whether we like it or not. And when we're in a chaotic state, it's almost like the universe is not hearing us anymore. So it's going to send into our life whatever we already have. If we want to make changes, we have to be quiet and we have to be in a coherent state. What is a coherent state? And that's the great news, because we can actually have access to that very easily with practice, with courage, with discipline, but it's still very easy. To be able to be in a coherent state means that whatever the vision I'm connected to for my company, for my life, for my partners, for working with my colleagues, my friends, whatever that vision is, that really motivates me, that gets me inspired and therefore inspiring, well, that vision, if it's in the sort of in the same vibration as my thinking, as my speaking, as my feeling, as my doing, I'm aligned with myself. This is and this is called heart coherence. When I'm able to have be in that state, the universe is clearly hearing what is it that I'm working on, what is it that I want to see happen in my life. And now really new things can happen, because unless we do that, only the past will represent itself, and maybe it's going to be dressed differently, or it's going to have different makeup or whatever, but it's still the same things that happens again and again and again. And I'm sure that people listening can identify with that. It's like we go on to, we want to do something and we have this new job or whatever, and yeah, it's a little better for a while, but then we sort of find ourselves at the same place again. So when we apply neurosciences to leadership, and I talk about this toolkit, it's tools, technologies, ways for leaders to work on them so that they can have that coherent state. Be able also to be very clear on the vision of why they're here. What is it that they want to do? And it's funny also, there's sort of an irony in it all, is that whatever objectives you might have, if it's not for the better good of all, somehow the universe makes it more difficult to happen, because it's not respecting certain fundamental principles. So we're not going to get into that today, but that's the main idea. What neuroscience is bringing to leadership is a whole new set of skills, and what I like about it too is that it's no longer about looking out, but looking in.
That's
and
right.
seeing what kind of a leader am I? I've been admiring such and such. And then you could actually use psychometrics, get your personality profile, which contains your leadership profile, which contains your communication style, the environment in which you will evolve in the best possible way, your motivational attributes, you know, what really motivates you. You can have that black and white on a piece of paper to know what is the personality that I built for myself? What is my personality style, profile? What kind of a leader am I? So that when you admire people, you can still admire them and sort of copy, if you like, what you see is best for them. But unless what you copy is in line with your type of personality and leadership style, it's not going to work. There's even reports now in neuroscience that says if you're not being coherent, the next generations won't follow, because they will always feel somehow that they can't trust you, because whatever you're thinking, if it's different than what you're saying, or if what you're saying is different than the vision or whatever, yeah. So, and the good news of it all is that we can all be the best leaders that we can be, and that is really sort of the birth now for many years of coherent leadership, or conscious leadership, or natural leadership. Those are new terms. We didn't talk in those terms like 20 years, maybe even 15 years ago. So there's a big movement to free leaders into being the leader that they truly are. So if you've got more of an analytical type, you're not going to be on stage going with the staff. You're going to have somebody on your staff who's going to do that, or part of your executive team or whatever. You're not going to do that. You are going to respect your type of leadership, and that's just one example. I think the biggest thing in everything that I just shared is the heart, because I said before, the heart is associated to intuition. And we just don't know what to do with intuition in corporate America today. So what we're left with now in terms of leadership is heads everywhere. We're just in our heads. So a quick example of intuition. I've got a client whose finance vice president is not really happy when I see her in coaching. And so we talk and ask questions and everything. So, well, you know, I can't give all of myself anymore. So I come here, it's almost like when we used to punch, you know, coming in, my heart isn't there anymore. I said, so why is that? Because, well, so often I see them. So even now, and the way she speaks, I see them. She's no longer in the team. She didn't say the members of my team. I see them making decisions, looking at me, asking me if I agree or if I don't. And I always agree. Why? Because when I don't, the series of questions that I get, like why, isn't that a good project? Like I get, like the questioning is like, I shouldn't say no. I shouldn't not believe in the project, or I shouldn't be negative about the project. And, oh, okay, so tell me more. And then she said, well, because when that happens, I already know if it's going to fail or not.
Intuition.
So how do you know? How do you know that? Exactly. Well, because I can feel it. Okay. And then, but you can't explain right away, right? She said, no, I can't. So that's it. That's the bottleneck. That's the problem in corporate America.
It's difficult as well to tell people, you know, this project is not going to work because of my intuition. People are just like, what? Intuition? I mean, now more and more we're talking about that. But it's difficult to accept that we can just dismiss a project based on intuition, which is a good guide, but
yes, well, here's what we need to learn, and that's the new toolkit that I was talking about. So I speak with her, and I said, okay, so how long does it take for you to be able to explain it? Oh, she said, that depends on the nature of what we talk about, but anywhere between an hour and 24 hours. What if everybody knew this, and you were able to say, no, I can't say yes right now. And automatically, because we have a new agreement, they delay the decision for 24 hours, and then we have the meeting again 24 hours later. How would that make a difference? And she goes, my God, now I would have time to explain that. I wouldn't feel so much pressure.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's give it a try. I'm working with all the team. So we have the conversations, coaching, and all of that stuff. Next meeting comes, maybe not next, but some of the meeting, at some point, they have to make an important decision. And she goes, no, okay, what do you, why? Whoa, 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 whoa. We have a new agreement. Remember? Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, okay, 24 hours. Yes, let's reconvene tomorrow. And she goes to her office, and now after a little while, she's able to explain that project. What's intuition? It's like intuition is all the information that you have inside of you, of all your experiences, the stuff you read, the movies you watch, all your experiences, the conversation, everything in your life, in some sort of a feeling, right, that you can't explain. It's either yeah or I'm not so sure or not at all. That's sort of the feeling that you get. Now she's got time, and then she goes back, and then she sees why she's feeling that way, goes back to the team the next day, said, well, here we go. The decision we're making, buying this new machinery and everything is going to cost us about $300,000. And that's fine. We've got the finances and everything for that. But as you get into the project with this new machinery, there'll come a point where cash flow is going to be down by about $150,000. Why do I know that? Because 2 years ago, we had project ABC that was very similar, and we couldn't make it through, and we lost over $500,000. We're going in the same direction right now. So if you want me to be on board, Mr. President, you need to go back to the bank and renegotiate extra $150,000 on our margin, so that when that hump comes, we're able to go through it. And if you're willing to do that, I'm absolutely in. So you see the difference that can make in the top team in terms of also, I mean, who wants to convince all the time? And you should, no, we don't need to get into those games anymore in terms of leadership. We can just listen to one another, but then we have a need for the tools to use intuition in a good way, to use instinct as well in a good way. So that, and one thing that we know in neurosciences as well, once you're coherent, you're aligned, we can actually measure it. We can see on a computer that you are aligned, because the three brains have aligned, and more information is traveling on your electromagnetic field of your heart, and it's coherent information. And because of all mammals getting that information, when you're walking around feeling, being, thinking, speaking, acting coherent, people get it. And what studies have demonstrated, and that's also a brand new toolkit for team building, if you have enough people that are being coherent in an environment, even the ones who are not will become more coherent. It is proven. That's proven. So, okay, so we need to start learning about these things so that we can implement them. And the funniest thing of it, and maybe the one that brings the most dividend, is newer generation. Somehow they seem to already know all of that. You know, the ones that are in their 20s and their early 30s right now. And there's a lot of complaints, especially about millennials now, and a lot of conferences we hear about and talks and everything talk about them not being motivated, not being able to work as long, they don't stay in the same job as long, and so on and so forth. Well, and it's not because they're not good people. It's not because they can't work hard and do a good job. They have nothing to look forward to. There's no vision. They don't feel it. They don't feel it in the electromagnetic field. Once that's reestablished, they're there. It has to be meaning.
And they tend to listen to themselves a bit more, which means that they listen to their intuition and just like, it's not working for me anymore. I'm just moving, or I'm doing something else. As before, and I was in sales as well, so I know what it's like. I was just result driven. I would have never listened to my intuition. So
yeah, exactly. So we need to relearn that. Exactly. And I'm saying relearn because hey, we didn't learn it, but doesn't mean you're going to buy something at the store. You already have it all. It's just a question of consciousness. Because when we're driven only from here, another way of saying it, and we have up to 65,000 thoughts in our head every day, only 50,000 would be about one thought every 0.8 seconds. Who's got time to really think, reflect? Take a step back, slow down. Yeah. So in society now, we're going really fast. we don't take time to take a step back, to slow down. So we're making the same decision over and over again. And look at the state of the planet now. That's the result.
Exactly.
Look at the state of relationships for a lot of people. That's the result as well.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be this difficult and this hard and this challenging. Because as a matter of fact, you had another guest before, John, I believe, who said life is easy.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, because we make it hard because we're only stuck in our heads. And another way of saying is that this is information, and the gut is information as well. So how about connecting to that information so that we can make our decision become a lot better, because now we have more information.
And easier as well, because we've got it within ourselves. We've got the answer. The only thing is sometimes we don't know, or we don't take the time to listen to how our body reacts. And I've been guilty of it when I didn't listen to my guts, agreed to something, and realized that wasn't for me. So.
And the reason that happens for most of us is we have three basic needs in terms of our personalities. So I'm going to sound maybe a little strange right now, because I make a difference between the personality and the human being. We came in little babies with a temperament. All babies aren't the same, right? We have different temperaments. But then for 20, 21, 22 years, based on the reactions we were getting in our environment, we built ourselves a personality. We were too much or not enough in most instances, so we had to adapt, and that is the personality. And a lot of people now are living their life led by something they've built, which is their personality, which is supposed to be a servant. By the way, when I talk about personality, it equates to ego, it equates to box of conditioning. It's all the same thing. If I was in a very specialized field, maybe people will say, no, it's not exactly the same. But for the purpose of this conversation, let's say that they are precisely the same. So we've built that personality, that ego, that box of conditioning. It's talking to us all day, up to 65,000 thoughts a day, according to the National Science Foundation. And we listen, and we operate based on what's happening here in terms of thinking and in terms of emotion. We are actually leading our life listening to the servant who now became, if you want to put it that way, the president of our life. But that president should be a warehouse manager. Why the metaphor of a warehouse manager? Because our personality is basically just like a big warehouse with all boxes everywhere of everything we've gone through, so that if I go like this, automatically the warehouse manager runs into the warehouse, goes see what that is, brings back the information, then you say, oh, it's a pen. Well, the same thing happens with everything. Our relationships, our behavior, everything is based on a warehouse manager that now had to become the president of our life and lead it, because we weren't there. We didn't take time to slow down, to look at nature, to be with nature, or to do yoga or meditation, whatever is what brings you connected. We stopped doing that. So now the warehouse manager is leading our life. We need, and it happens in time, we need to tell him, hey, I love you, buddy. You're a great warehouse manager. I'll take over now in terms of directing life. And I'll need you, because if I don't have you, it's not going to work. And I'm putting a little emphasis on that, because a lot of people, once they discover that their warehouse manager, their personality has been leading their life, they hate it. And they want to push it out. They don't want it anymore. They don't want that ego. They don't want that personality. Well, sorry, you have one, and it's going to stick around.
Exactly. It's part of us. It's part of us. It's just a question of accepting it. So,
and accepting it, and furthermore, the areas we don't like so much, if we dare to explore them, there are gifts everywhere.
Your shadow.
As you know, yes.
Definitely. So yes, that's very interesting, and it's true. Finding the right alignment so everything falls into place. taking into consideration that we are the captain of our boat, and if we don't take control, well, there's no destination, we don't know where we're going, so we are not going to achieve what we want. And as John said, we create our life, and it's easy if we do it with passion as well. So the passion is so important, because as you say, it comes from the heart, and the universe will listen and things will fall into place.
That's interesting that you talk about passion, because again, if speaking of neuroscience as applied to leadership, passion is associated in the brain with an area that's also, it's the same area that has to do with passion, creativity, but also guilt and shame.
Mm.
So if we haven't done the work to have a look at what drives me, and you let the personality drive, you are going to be driven by whatever is there. Somebody in my life that I know has been helping friends around her because of the guilt of not doing it. And now it's taking a toll on her because she's so tired and she can't do it anymore. Like she felt guilty if she was not going to help. So, but when she takes a step back and look, I didn't really want to do this, but it's that guilt that sort of took over. What do I do with that? Well, there are ways, of course, to be able to explore that area and eventually sort of restore it in a way that guilt, shame become wounds of the past, if you will, and now you're fully passionate, fully in creativity. But that only happens if you're connected to who you truly are, to your true leadership, and that you have a vision for yourself and for your life. And when we talk about vision, it's not, oh, I'm here and I want to have that condo and that car and that this and that life. No, that it could be that, but for the most part, for most people, is I really want to feel good. And when you do, yeah, you might have that condo, that car, that this, that, but you don't get up in the morning for that.
No.
You get up in the morning for feeling good. So guess what? You can feel good.
Yeah, to be.
And there are ways to get there, because if your box of conditioning now and your warehouse manager is saying, yeah, he seems to, yeah, that sounds easy, but it really isn't. Well, yeah, you're right. It's not, because now a lot of your memories are no longer in your brain, they're in your body. And your body is the warehouse manager ordering your life. So yeah, you will need some work, some courage, some discipline to get out of whatever situation that is not as ideal as you'd like it to be. But if you do that, then you'll have all the rewards as well. So yeah, so let's make it clear that there is some work involved, of course.
Definitely. It's just because obviously we've been doing things for so many years. It's not going to change just like that because one day we've decided to. It's just like we need to rewire to get some new habits, to get rid of things like you were talking about limiting beliefs, or like comments we had in the past, situation we lived in the past. So yeah, we need to be consistent, coherent, as you were saying as well, and working at it, because it's not going to happen in one day.
And maybe one thing that I can add to finish the conversation is the conclusion of neurosciences in the past 5 years, and in answering what is leadership. And the answer is coherence of the brains with an S. It's that simple. So 7 billion people, 7 billion different leaders. That's what we want to create. That's what I want to create. Because when you are your true leader, you're the natural leader that you are, you're happy. And somehow you start doing the things that you really care about and stop doing the things that you don't. And you're actually ready to help yourself. You're ready to take care of your personality, because at that point you see your personality as a child who needs a parent, who needs to be taken care of. And the neat thing is, with personality profiles now, you're able to tell, oh, what are the special needs of my personality, so I can address them. You know, after like 30 years of coaching and training in corporations, I came to a conclusion about 70% of the energy of employees is used to take care of the needs of their personality unconsciously.
Mm.
It's in the DNA. You can't help it. You have to take care of your needs, right? But unconsciously. So with not much of a efficiency. And so once people realize that they have to take care of their needs and they've had the conversation and the distinctions to be able to do it in an efficient way, they have more energy to do the job. Because if 70% of their energy is used to take care unconsciously of those needs, once they do consciously, then maybe you don't need an extra body in the department. You just need people that are more present, that are taking care of their need. And it enhances every conversation, enhances every relationship. People become real adults. Because in corporate America today, in all the boardrooms, they are 5 years old, 7 years old, 12 years old. And I don't mean any disrespect with that, because you can see it when the shit hits the fan, to use the expression. You can see true character. And what you often see is people yelling at one another, not understanding one another, taking position. There's no need for that anymore. We can actually go way beyond that. And as Einstein said, if you want to fix a problem, you got to do it at a different level, which is to say, you got to raise your consciousness. And then it's easy. As a matter of fact, you don't need, for the most part, to fix any problem, because your consciousness raised at a level where the problem seems to disappear.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds out there for a lot of people. You have to live it to know what it's about. And once you do, then you go, oh, of course, it's life.
Yeah, definitely. So as a leader or for a leader, you would say that to get some time, introspection time, and make sure that you are aligned there, and there. So obviously.
Well, here's something that I can leave as something so simple, but that can make a huge difference in your life, is set your watch, your phone, whatever, to ring every hour. It doesn't have to be on the hour. It could be 5 minutes, 20, whatever, but on the time you decide, every hour. And when it does, stop for 30 seconds. That's all it takes. And ask yourself the following questions. Oh, it rings. Oh, what was I just thinking about? And sometimes you were just thinking about it. You won't be able to put your finger on it because it's like 50,000 thoughts a day. But eventually you'll go, oh, I was just thinking of the next project. How am I feeling? Discouraged. Gee, we did not even start yet. I'm already feeling discouraged. What's going on? Okay, what's your need? Well, I need to talk with such and such, discuss it. There you go. That's all it took. But that's stepping back every hour for 30 seconds. You can even add another minute if you'd like and do a little bit of hard coherence, which is getting to be known and known. Hard coherence is a way to breathe in a very precise way to reconnect the brains together. So you could do 30 seconds of, again, what was I just thinking about? How am I feeling? And what's my need? And okay, you've discovered that. You took a few notes. Just why don't you take another 30 seconds and just breathe? And then get back at what you do. And it's a lot of people don't do it because it's the most counterintuitive thing to do. You're busy, you gotta do what you gotta do. You don't have much time. Who in their right mind would stop, right? It's counterintuitive, but I promise you, if you do it, you'll be a lot more efficient. You won't have the same conversations over and over again. You won't have anybody going, oh, why did you send me that email? Oh, that was a mistake, because you were not present at what you were doing. So things will actually, the more you slow down, the faster things become results in your life. The faster your efforts will show you the promise that you were looking for.
Wow, good tip. Thank you very much. I'm going to try it. I'm going to do it because I've realized that my concentration's gone and I've got so many things in my head, so that I'm working on something and suddenly I'm somewhere, so I'm not really present with what I'm doing, and that's going to be a good exercise for me to just slow down.
You're mentioning that, let me show you what's happening when that happens. That's a great conversation that we're having here, that's the different areas of the brain. That's what I studied in neuro coaching. So we don't go to the same areas of the brain depending on the topic that we're thinking about or the project we're working on or whatever. And you may see that black line that over here. Well, it's there because as soon as we're under tension, this whole part of the brain becomes unavailable. It's called cortical inhibition. And that happens because the brain is sensing, the amygdala is sensing that, ooh, there's a danger. So all the systems are being put in place so that we can survive. So we don't need critical thinking. We don't need strategic thinking. We don't need to build great relationships. We don't need to orient ourselves to the next 5 years. We don't need vision. We don't need our most beautiful talents and faculties. We need to survive. And people are spending their whole life in that state without even knowing. So what you just described, I needed to kind of, I'm going to try it. Of course, because me too. I mean, we all get in a state where the top of the brain is no longer available. Do you know any people that lead their life with half a brain? Yeah, but guess what? Look in the mirror. Because that's me, that's you, that's all of us. So it's a constant taking a step back, a constant being conscious, a constant monitoring your state. And after a while, and that's the good news, the personality, because you've used the same consciousness strategies again and again and again and again, will recuperate that and make it a really strong neuronal route in your brain. Now it becomes easier and easier and easier and easier. New behaviors become easier. And now you switched. And now your president is leading your life. Your warehouse manager is happy. He's being called upon all the time and doing his job. And now you see your life unfold in a very different way. And you've become the leader that you were destined to be. You become the natural leader that you truly are.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Luc. So audience, if you want to get in touch with Luc, you've got the website alongside his name, and in the description as well, you will find the Calendly, the link to book a session with Luc. So Luc, thank you ever so much. So
it's a great pleasure, Isabelle. I want to thank you very much for inviting me. By the way, the Calendly link, it's a free half an hour that we can have conversation.
Fantastic.
If you were touched at all by what we discussed today, take that link and you'll be able to make an appointment directly into my schedule, and we'll talk, and you'll be able to have something out of it. And then whether you want to go further and have coaching, whatever, that's a different story. But let's equip you, give you a part of the toolkit that you need to become the leader that you truly are.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Luc. So, next week, my guest will be Tammy Dafoe. She's a business coach. So look out for the flyer to find out what we're going to talk about. And obviously, if you've missed any of the previous talk shows, that you can find them on my YouTube channel, Phoenix Coaching and Training. Click subscribe, click that little bell so you get the notifications, and so you won't miss any more. So thank you ever so much, and see you next week. And Luc, thank you very much, and hope to see you soon on Isabelle's talk show. Come back anytime.
Yes. Thank you, Isabelle. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.